Hello, and thank you for listening to Fanish Feminists. This is KG.
This is Allie.
And we are bringing to you a recording discussing the problems with Jurassic World.
And how Jurassic World is being interpreted by so-called feminists.
And it's very sad. Okay, so the first thing that we wanted to talk about was a couple of articles and a Tumblr post that we found that were problematic, let's say.
The first article that you found, and I'm sure there's more if we spent more time looking for them, but The Guardian had an article on Is Jurassic World Sexist? Assessing the film's key females of the species. And, leaving aside the whole females, which, it's just not good feminism. Let's just say that, because that's a whole other aspect. First off, they start as their first subject that is talking about feminism is Joss Whedon, which gives you an idea of how white feminist this article is going to be. But then they go on to say that, of course, the best representation was the Indominus Rex and Blue, the raptor. And, I mean, neither of them are human, obviously. But then they grade Claire, which is, of course, a feminism fail. She gets criticized for choosing her career over personal and romantic life. I mean, I could just keep going on and on and on. It's just, they were so desperate for good representation that they went with the dinosaurs first, is basically what they did.
Which is really, really deeply pathetic. I'm just saying.
It's so pathetic. It's sad. It makes you just like, what? That right there should have clued you in. That's not going to do it for feminism.
I'm kind of wondering at this point if The Guardian was getting paid for some sort of good publicity, so the poor writer had to come up with something, and that's if I'm feeling generous, I suppose. But
I mean, that is very generous of you, but at the same time, don't we have an obligation to call people out who sound like paid spokespeople? I mean, I thought I was reading something from Gawker or Jezebel. I don't know.
That's true. Gawker and Jezebel can at least be counted on to be acidic and would not necessarily have gone that far, I think. But yeah, no, I agree. We do need to call it out, and that was again, it's sort of like a conjecture. Like this is the only way I can come up with the only line of reasoning that I can come up with that explains using dinosaurs as good female representation. And we're going to discuss that in a bit for listeners, but that's the only thing I can think of.
It's just sad.
Unless you really are that bad of a feminist. Article 2 is from Yahoo. Essentially does the same thing. It goes, in terms of how it handles its feminism, it does discuss the feminism in the first movie, with Dr. Ellie, I'm sorry, it's been so long since I've seen that movie, Sattler.
Mm-hmm.
Is not only, she's dressed for action, she's ready to go, she holds her own, she gets to fight raptors. And then they talk about the new movie, and again, dinosaurs are somehow good representation, and it's just baffling. Absolutely baffling.
It's just, again, did they get paid off too? Are we to assume that everybody has been paid off? And that's why they're doing it? I mean, nowhere in either article did anyone say, hey, maybe you should have had a woman of color with some speaking lines, maybe?
Yeah, it seems to have not occurred to either author, and it's really, really pathetic. But we also found it. You ready to move on to the Tumblr post?
Yes, the Tumblr post.
Okay. The Tumblr post. Oh god. Okay, so this Tumblr post is probably the worst out of them, to be completely honest with you. And it's by the user Blue the Heroic Velociraptor. And effectively, it actually goes to the point of pitting Claire against Blue. And I don't understand, because Claire's a human. Blue is a dinosaur that doesn't actually have a gender. Like, they're dinosaurs. Gender is a human concept. Dinosaurs don't have gender.
It's obviously a human concept. Gender is a human concept. Why are we doing this?
Yeah, like, they call her a girl because we project our own constructs onto other animals. That's the only reason we refer to any non-human species as a girl. Or use she to describe your dog or whatever.
Yeah.
This is not representation, this is projection. And it's really sad. The author just hates Claire, I guess, that bad that she's willing to accept a non-human genderless dinosaur as the best character in the movie.
Oh, I weep for feminism.
I know, I know. About all I can say though for it is that at least it doesn't have that many notes compared to what it could have, because the Raptor Squad is like Tumblr's favorite thing right now, and this post, which lionizes Blue, has less than 1,200 notes.
I guess that's something.
Yeah, yeah. Although I did go through literally every single note, and I saw 3 people who raised some sort of objection to the mess that is the OP.
Oh, God. In 1,200 notes, there's only 3 people who are objecting.
Yeah, I was like, "Are you shitting me?"
I just.
It was quite ridiculous.
I mean, I'm starting to think this is mainstream feminism now. This is literally legit what's going on out there. People honestly think that we don't have to criticize our dinosaur movies now. But let me.
I don't know about.
I mean,
I don't know.
I'm only saying that because Sharknado passes the Black Bechdel test. How did I probably pronounce that wrong? But I mean, it's just Sharknado on sci-fi passes the test, the minimum test of having 2 women talk to each other and not be about men.
And it is. I love Sharknado to death. It's a good movie if you're looking for something that has absolutely no meaning and is ridiculous, which is like my favorite kind of movie. But it's really not a feminist movie at all, and it still passes this, and doesn't try to posit that the flying sharks are somehow good representation either, which is, I guess, something that we can more than we can say for that for this movie. I mean, I think that if it were mainstream feminism, we would have found like 1,000 articles, and the 3 that I did find were the 2 that I did find plus the Tumblr article weren't quite were a little bit difficult to find. But I do agree that it is still too mainstream that even the Guardian, Yahoo, and Tumblr tolerated it.
Well, I mean, I've seen some other people murmurings of people saying, "Well, yeah, but um, you know, Jurassic Park's dinosaurs were women," and I'm like,
They're dinosaurs. They don't have gender.
oh.
How do you do this? Why do you do this?
So you came up with some rules for good representation.
I did, although I feel like they should be really, really common sense. The first one is how to determine whether this is representation at all. For representation to count, it must be humanoid, or at least anthropomorphic. And the Raptor Squad is not. They don't talk, they don't wear clothes, they don't do anything that's suggestive of humanity. Humans do not operate on pack hierarchy. We don't have alphas, no matter how much the sad little men wish we did. And that's just one of many, many indications that the raptors are definitely not human. So they don't count.
Thank you for that. They just absolutely don't count. Basically, we already talked about how the movie itself doesn't pass the Bechdel test. Every time the women are talking, they're talking
Mm-hmm.
about the young boys. She's not good at watching her nephews. So anytime you see women talking, they're talking about taking care of little boys. And I'm sorry, that just does not fulfill the minimum requirements of the Bechdel test. Okay, so how is this white feminism? Let's break this down for people. Nowhere in either article do we find any evidence that they know that it's really bad when in regards to the racism. So basically, nobody mentions that Masrani is, as the park owner, is killed off because he's incompetent as a helicopter pilot. There's a sneaky Asian. BD Wong plays Dr. Henry Wu, and he's the one that created the Indominus Rex, and he's the one that basically, like, the big reveal is that the Indominus Rex is basically a ginormous raptor. The only decent role for a man of color that doesn't, die horribly or actually trope is Omar Sy, and he plays Barry, who is like Owen's assistant. So, like, I don't remember what happened to him at the end of the movie. So I'm not really sure actually what happens to him. I just know he doesn't die on screen from what I can remember. And so, like, neither article even tackles that. So it's not intersectional at all. They don't even talk about that. I already mentioned how neither article talks about the fact that there's no women of color in either film. And just to give our listeners an idea of how bad this is, in Jurassic Park 2, which was made in 1997, Julianne Moore was Sarah Harding, and Vanessa Lee Chester was Ian Malcolm's daughter Kelly. And for those who really didn't get a chance to watch it, Ian's daughter is black. So, I mean, you have a little 11-year-old. I think she's supposed to be like 11 or something. And she's like a gymnast and she's fighting raptors, and she's a little, she's got a complex characterization, and she definitely talks to Sarah, so they pass the Bechdel test from what I remember. I could be wrong, but I mean that movie was made 18 years ago. How come something better couldn't have come out of this movie?
And when Joss Whedon's calling out your shit, you know you're bad. I'm just saying.
He's baby feminism, like honestly.
So desperate, you'll take a dinosaur.
And so there you have it, people. We deconstructed why this does not count as feminism. It's not good representation. You can reach all you want, but this movie will leave you desperate for representation. And I feel bad for Claire's character, that nobody wants to claim her. Nobody wants to read into her motivations or anything. They just universally hated her.
Thank you for listening.
We've been Vanished Feminists. Please join us next week.